Good day to you all. My name is Dr. Obafemi Oyewumi, and I welcome you once again to my YouTube channel. Today, our focus is on taxation. One of the ways by which government generates funds for the purpose of financing its activities is by imposing taxes and levies on corporate organizations operating within its domain. Today, we're going to be looking at one of the levies being charged by the government of Nigeria. And the levy is called National Information Technology Development Levy. National Information Technology Development Levy. That's what we're looking at today. Please permit me to share my slides for a moment. Please do that now so that we can all follow as I continue. All right. So let's put the presentation mode. All right, here we are. Okay, so let's look at the start from the beginning. National Information Technology Development Levy. That's our focus, in today's class. Let's look at the objectives. We're going to be learning about the meaning and the purpose of National Information Development Levy. We're also going to be tracing the history of National Information Development Levy in Nigeria. And of course, to also appreciate the legal provisions surrounding the levy. We're also going to be getting ourselves to know about the composition and functions of the board in charge of this particular levy, and of course to understand the imposition and assessment, collection as well of National Information Development Levy. And finally, we'll be talking about the computation of National Information Development Levy. Let's look at the history. National Information Technology Development Agency was established in 2001, April, with the approval of Federal Executive Council. And it started operation since then. But the enabling act for this particular levy did not come into establishment until 6 years later. And that was in 2007. Section 1, subsection 1 of National Information Technology Development Agency Act provides for the establishment of a body to be known as the National Information Technology Development Agency. Section 1 and subsection 2 provides for the agency that the agency shall be a body corporate with perpetual succession and a common seal and may be sued in its corporate name, meaning that this particular agency was brought to life in March, as a matter of fact, but legally it's not come to establishment until April 2007. This agency is a corporate, organization, as it were, and of course it has this association that we want to say is perpetual. So it does not limit, it does not stop at a particular period. So it is perpetual. I may be sued, of course, I must also sue as well. What's the objective? The main objective of NITA is to implement the Nigerian Information Technology Policy, to coordinate it and to regulate the IT framework and system for sustainable development in Nigeria. That's the main focus. To implement the Nigerian Information Technology Policy, to coordinate it, to regulate the general IT framework and system for sustainable development in Nigeria. So the role of NITA, that's the National Information Technology Development Agency, is to develop, regulate, and advise on information technology in a country through regulatory standards, guidelines, and policies. So they are in charge of actually formulating policies, bringing about standards, how information technology should be carried out, how should be developed, carried out, regulated in Nigeria. And another mandate of NITA is to create the framework for the planning, research, development, standardization, application, technology, application, coordination, monitoring, evaluation, and regulation of information technology practices, activities, and systems in Nigeria. So these are the mandates. These are the things that the agency is meant to carry out. These are the things that the agency is meant to carry out. So let's look at the composition of the governing board of NITA. Okay, the composition of the governing board. Now, here we should have a chairman, There will always be a chairman and then a representative each from the Ministry of the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology, the Ministry of Communication, the Federal Ministry of Education, the Standards Organization of Nigeria, Nigeria Society of Engineers, and then 4 persons to represent the affiliate professional bodies of the Computer Registration of Nigeria. 2 persons with cognate experience in information technology to represent the Academic Staff Union of University, that's ASU, and the Academic Staff of Union of Polytechnics. 6 persons who are experts in the area of information technology appointed by the president from each of the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. And then, of course, we talk about the Director General of the agency, who shall be the secretary of the board. The president, on the recommendation of the minister, shall appoint the chairman and members of the board. So let's look at the functions of the governing board. What are the functions of the governing board? Number 1 is to formulate overall policies for the management of the affairs of the agency. Number 2 is to manage information technology development trust fund established under the Act. Number 3 is also to appoint, promote, terminate, dismiss, and exercise disciplinary control over the principal officers and senior staff of the agency. Number 4 is to structure the agency into departments in a manner necessary for the effective discharge of the functions of the agency. And then number 5 is to enhance the effective discharge of the functions of the agency. These are the responsibilities and the functions of the agency that have been formulated or that have been created rather, for the purpose of managing, a particular fund. Let's look at the fund even right now. Let's consider the funds of, the funds coming into the to be managed by the agency, as given by the law. Let's go and look at the fund. Here we are now talking about National Information Technology Development Fund. All right. So Section 12, Subsection 2A of the National Information Technology Development Agency, 2007, provides for the establishment of National Information Technology Fund, which is to be realized from a levy to be charged at the rate of 1% on profit before tax of liable companies. So it means that it's not all the companies that are liable to pay. All right. Now, the levy is to be charged on specified companies with turnover of 100 million naira and above. Take note of this particular one. The levy is to be charged on the specified companies with turnover of 100 million and above. So any company that does not have a turnover of 100 million, even if it's meant to pay, or even if it's one of the categories of companies to pay, that company would not be surcharged. The levy is assessed by FIRS, that's Federal Inland Revenue Service, and it is payable within 60 days of its service, within 60 days of service of a notice of assessment. The NITA levy paid by the company is to be tax deductible. We'll know the implication of that, later on. Okay, let's look at the penalty for non-compliance. The penalty for non-compliance is 2% of the level payable. So the moment a company is guilty or does not comply, then it's liable to pay 2% surcharge on the levy. Any company, agency, organization that fails within 2 months after a demand note to pay the levy commits an offense. Such companies are liable on conviction to a fine of not less than 1 million naira, and the chief executive officer of the company, agency, organizations have been liable to be prosecuted and punished for the offense in like manner as if he had committed the offense, unless he proves that the act or mission constituting the offense took place without his knowledge, consent, or connivance. So it is imperative for companies that are liable to pay this particular surcharge. All right. So let's go to the companies. What are the companies, or the companies that are liable to pay the levy? Number 1, GSM service providers. That's all telecommunication companies. So they're liable to pay. Cyber companies and internet providers, they're also liable to pay. Pension managers and pension-related companies, also they're also liable to pay. Banks and other financial institutions and insurance companies. These are the companies that are liable, 5 of them that are liable, the category, 5 categories that are liable to pay, that levy. Okay, so these are the companies that are, these categories of companies that are liable to pay. Now let's talk about assessment of NITDA. That's this time around NITDL. So the Federal Revenue Service is responsible for the assessment, collection, and remittance of National Information Technology Development Levy from companies to National Information Development Fund. You remember we said that a fund has been set up by NITDA Act, okay, for the purpose of raising levies to fund the activities of managing IT development in the country. All right. So every liable company is expected to assess itself under the self-assessment regime. Okay. Every liable company. So as soon as you are filing a corporate organization, if you are liable, as soon as you are filing your returns for the year, okay, which is expected to be done, 6 months, latest by 6 months after the expiration of the year, you have to file for NITDL, as part of the returns that you make. Assessment is done along with the assessment of corporate organizations for company's income tax or petroleum profit tax for an accounting period of the company. That's to buttress what I said earlier on. Okay, so the assessment and collection of National Information Technology Development Levy is to be done by Federal Inland Revenue Service. Every company that is liable will have to assess itself based on the self-assessment regime. And of course, the assessment is also done as soon as the company is filing for its return, for a particular year. So let's talk about the computation even right now. How do you arrive at the amount to be charged, to be levied? Let's look at the computation. The computation of National Information Technology Development Levy is to be based on the rate of 1% of the net profit before tax. 1% of net profit before tax. So that's the rate. Okay, so NITDL rate of 1% shall be computed as follows. NITDL rate, which is 1%, okay, divided by 1 plus 100. Why are we saying 1 plus 100? Because it is to be based on profit before tax. And recall that we said that this particular levy is tax deductible. This particular levy is tax deductible. We said that earlier on, that it means that once the amount is charged, all right, if you come back to this, the inter levy paid by the company is to be tax deductible. It means that it is part of the allowable expenses, okay, one of the allowable expenses of the company, okay. So that's what it represents, and that's why we are using this particular formula. 1%, okay, of the profit before tax, net profit before tax. So in order for you to calculate accurately, you place a 1 over 100 plus 1. 1 over 1 plus 100 times the net profit before tax. That is how to compute the levy. Now let's look at this illustration. ABC Nigeria Limited has a turnover of 120 million. So this one has exceeded the 100 million limit. So this particular company is due to be surcharged. All right. Has a turnover of 120 million in 2022 year of assessment. In the course of the relevant year, the company made a profit before tax of 9 million. 120 million as turnover, and then 9 million naira as profit before tax. Compute the NITDL. That's National Information Technology Development Levy. How do you compute it? Let's go to the um, the next slide to see the solution. ABC Nigeria Limited, computation of National Information Technology Development Levy for 2022 year of assessment. So here we go. We have 9 million naira as the profit before tax. And then for us to compute the NITDL, we have that's 1% now, divided by 1 plus 100. So at the end of that gives you 101, 101. 1 over 101 times 9 million. You arrive at 89,108 naira 91 kobo. That's what it is. Now, if you want to check to verify whether the amount that you have calculated is correct or not, let's go. Remember, we said that it's tax deductible. So after charging the figure, the amount, you have to deduct it from the net, that's the net profit before tax, in order for you to arrive at net profit, okay, to be discharged to tax. So now, or to be assessed to tax. So 1% of that figure, that's 9 million minus 89,108.91 will give you 8,910,809 naira 0.9 kobo. Once you arrive at this, you apply 1%. You remember we said that it's going to be 1% of net profit before tax. So here we are, 1% of this figure will give you 89,108 naira 0.9 kobo. And that's, if you look at, check this one against the original amount of money that have been computed, wherever they are the same. So that is giving you or confirming that this rate or this amount is correct. All right, that's confirming that this particular figure is correct. Remember, 120 or 100 million threshold, anything beyond that, 100 million threshold as turnover, once that particular condition is met, the next thing is now to subcharge whatever net profit before tax, to subcharge it to the levy. Okay, and then you arrive, whatever you arrive at will now become the amount to be paid to FIRS, to the fund through FIRS. That brings us to the end of today's lecture. Thank you for joining. If you've enjoyed and if you learned one or two things, about this levy, please don't hesitate to hit the subscription button. So just subscribe to my channel so that the next time you have any lecture coming up, you'll see it, coming to you. You'll see it on, and you'll be able to access it as much as possible. So thank you once again for joining. If you have any comments, feel free to put it there, and then I will attend to it much more later. Thank you very much. I will stop, here. Bye for now.